You do not have to worry about intonation as a separate topic in Korean. Intonation is something that you will naturally get better at as your pronunciation improves. So as your pronunciation gets better, as you start having more conversations, your intonation is also going to, on its own, sound more natural. I learned intonation by doing lots of conversation practice, not by searching YouTube videos and lessons for how to do it separately, so you don't have to stress about intonation. Really, there are better ways to spend your time. But if you want some tips for how to improve it, or you're just curious how intonation works in Korean, then keep watching this video. Because many beginning Korean learners, including myself when I was a beginner, get told that their speaking in Korean sounds kind of like they're singing almost, with lots of ups and downs, so really unnatural sounding intonation. And I'll explain why. But before we start, I want to give a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters and my channel members. A video like this with lots of technical information about intonation really could not be possible if I didn't have you. Your support makes this channel, and if you would also like to join as a supporter, if you're watching out there, I'll have links for how you can do that in the description box below. So first, what is intonation? It's essentially the melody of your speaking. So how the words go up or down in a sentence or even within themselves. Now, you probably already know that Korean has some intonation, and you probably know it's somehow not the same as English intonation. For example, if I were to simply say, "How are you?" in Korean, "How are you?" But with American English intonation, it would sound like 잘 지내세요, which is extremely awkward. Now, the rules for intonation in English and Korean are very different. So that's the first thing I want to tell you. Forget everything that you know about intonation. Because in English, something that we do is whenever we want to emphasize a word, what we do is we raise the pitch of that word and we lengthen the word. And English intonation, because of this, is all over the place. And I'm doing it right now as I'm speaking. If you wanted to make the sentence, for example, I ate the pizza, and we wanted to emphasize pizza, we would say, I ate the pizza. So it's a little bit higher and a little bit longer. Korean does not do this. Now, in Korean, you can, if you want to emphasize something, slightly raise the pitch of it, but not extending it and not doing this for every word like we do in English sentences. So it's better just to think that you don't do this. For example, if you were to say something like, I ate the pizza, 피자를 먹었어요, but you wanted to emphasize pizza, don't say, 피자를 먹었어요. Or I ate pizza, don't say 피자를 먹었어요. Both of these sound hilarious. In fact, in Korean, when you want to emphasize words, it's more common that you'll just change the sentence to add emphasis to a word. In this case, to add emphasis to a noun, you can replace whatever marker with the topic marker. You could say 피자는 먹었어요. Like I ate the pizza is now what you have. And that would imply like I ate the pizza, but I didn't eat the cake. So the first thing though that you should know about Korean intonation is that all syllables being equal, you can pronounce any word with any intonation you'd like, higher pitched or lower pitched. You can say a word like pizza, 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 pizza. They're all going to mean pizza. Now, this might sound obvious, right? But actually, Chinese doesn't do this. For example, in Chinese, you have tones. And English does this too, actually. For example, the word record, R-E-C-O-R-D, is record only when it's being used to record something. If you have something that's been recorded, well, you have a record. And there are tons of these. And in English, even with specific words, we'll have to say them with a certain intonation or else they sound awkward. Do you say computer or computer? You say computer, but then the verb compute from that sounds different. So because of all of this, Korean tends to sound very flat, in fact, almost monotone. So if your teacher comments that your pronunciation or your overall intonation sounds like you're singing your Korean, well, that's the first tip I'll give you, is try to just make everything as flat as you can. It might feel boring and monotone at first, but that's going to be more natural than adding in your regular ups and downs from your native language. Start by flattening everything out, and then later you can slowly add back in some intonation as you learn how how it's used. So then, how is Korean intonation used? Korean sentences will generally start by raising the intonation early on. So if we have a sentence starting with 저는 for I, 저는, we get that raise right at the beginning of a sentence. Then, most of the sentence will be more or less flat, at least compared to English. And then at the end of the sentence, it'll either go back down, 합니다, or if you're asking a question, it'll go up at the end, 생각해요. So that's the general form of a sentence. In the beginning, going up early, kind of staying flat, and then either going down for a statement or a little up for a question. Versus English, where we might say something like, well, I was thinking about going out tonight to get some sushi. What do you think, guys? Maybe we should try asking your mother first. You get the idea. In this lesson, I'm not going to go very in-depth, but there is something I want to talk about, and that's pitch. Specifically, this is for Seoul dialect. I say Seoul dialect, it is a dialect, but it's also the most common Korean that you're going to hear. Certain consonants will have a higher pitch than other consonants when they're at the beginning of a word. So, if you have a word and the first consonant is one of these certain consonants I'm going to mention, the pitch is going to be a little bit higher. So which consonants do that? Well, it's the strong consonants. What are the strong consonants? These four. Anytime you have a word that starts with one of these strong consonants, the pitch is going to be a little bit higher. Now, for these examples I'm going to give you, I'm going to exaggerate this difference so that you can hear it. First, a regular example, 고기. It's just 고기 for meat. So you can say it with higher pitch, 고기 or 고기, and it's the same thing. But let's look at a couple examples that have strong consonants. So the first word, 기타, meaning guitar, this does have a strong consonant here, but it's not at the beginning. So you just say it like normal, 기타. The next word though, 키보드, is keyboard, and this one does have a strong consonant, so the first syllable will be pronounced with a slightly higher tone. 키보드, not keyboard, but keyboard. Key. Let's do another example. 탈수. This one has another strong consonant. This is the word for spin drying on a dryer. 탈수. Notice it has a higher pitch. 탈수. Not 탈수, but 탈수. Another common word. 청소기 is your vacuum cleaner. It's not 청소기, but 청소기. Okay, one more example. Next we have 팔 and 발. 팔 is for your arm and 발 is for your foot. Now, these are often confused by beginning learners while they're still learning the differences, but one extra difference is that this one is said with a higher pitch because of that strong consonant. So this one you get 팔이, and this one is 팔이. So this one is 팔이. So this is your arm, and this one, 팔이, is going to be your foot. So if you hear 팔이, and even if you didn't hear that extra air, as long as you hear that higher pitch, you can tell which one it is. Okay, but it's not only the strong consonants that get this higher pitch. The same thing happens with the double consonants. These are the double consonants, and these ones also will have a higher pitch, but only when it's at the beginning of a word. So for a quick example, 식빵 is what you would call a regular loaf of bread. 식빵 does have the double consonant, it doesn't have a higher pitch because it's not at the beginning of a word. However, 방 for room and 빵 for bread, this one is higher because it's the whole word. 빵, 방, 빵. One more example, 진짜. This one has a double consonant here too, this means really, but it's not higher because it's not at the beginning. 짜다 is to be salty, and you can hear it has that higher pitch. 짜다. Next we have 살 and 쌀. This one is simply flesh or skin. It can also be used as the counter for age. And this one is uncooked rice. So we have 살, 쌀, higher pitched, simply because it uses this double consonant. And one more example, 악보. This one does have a double consonant sound after sound change rules, but it's not at the beginning, so you don't get that higher pitch. This one though, the word for bus is 버스, but foreign words, so Konglish words from other languages, tend to get pronounced as if they had a double consonant. So not 버스 and not 버스, but 버스. And it's not just bus, but other words really commonly like 카페 for cafe actually gets pronounced with a double consonant, even though it's not written that way. Cape, or game, also gets pronounced as if it's double, game, with a higher pitch. And there are really a lot of these, so you can search other foreign words and see that they get this double consonant added to them. And maybe just learning this is enough for anyone who's intermediate or advanced to improve their intonation, but I have a little bit more for you. Because the next question you might have is, why? This is because these sounds are harder to make with your mouth. For example, with strong consonants, you're adding extra air, and with double consonants, you're making your mouth more tense. And therefore, that extra stress you're using to make them, or that extra air you're using, causes the pitch to go up. At least this is my theory. In fact, something interesting is, you might have heard this before, but Korean a long time ago used to be a tonal language, just like Chinese is today. But these tones mostly went away. At least in standard Korean, they're gone. There are still some remaining parts in other dialects, but not in modern standard Korean. In fact, though, some linguists theorize that right now Korean is going through what's known as tonogenesis, which means gaining tones, so becoming a tonal language slowly. That means that in the future, Korean will become a tonal language like Chinese is today. But whether it's actually going through tonogenesis and will become a tonal language is really under debate. And I'm not going to promote that and say that's happening because there isn't enough evidence to say that's actually what's going to happen. Just something to be aware of in case you hear someone mention that. So I have one more tip before I end this video. That is for improving your intonation. I recommend not trying to listen to your own intonation to improve your intonation. So stop focusing on your own intonation and start focusing on others' intonation, specifically native Korean speakers. Pay attention to how their sentences are going up and down, and where they go up and down, as well as what forms they're using, and also what their mood is at the time. How are they doing their intonation when they're happy, or sad, or scared, or upset? And this will also help you with shadowing later on. So shadowing is where you listen to someone else say something and you try to repeat it exactly the way that they said it, with the exact same intonation and pronunciation, everything. And shadowing is usually a good way to help improve your pronunciation, but it also helps you improve your intonation. So I would say try adding a little bit of shadowing into your next study session and see how you like it. So do you have any other tips for Korean intonation or any other interesting facts you'd like to share? Let me know in the description box below. Again, super special thanks goes out to my Patreon supporters and my channel members for making this possible. I really couldn't make these sorts of technical videos about intonation without your support because the algorithm simply doesn't like them as much as I wish. But thank you so much for your support. And if you would also like to become one of my supporters, I will have links in the description box below for how you can do that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.